Welcome to another edition of Office Hours. This is a new vehicle we have for communicating directly with the campus, and what we're hoping is that this will be a more lively way of sharing some of the ideas and issues and topics which are taking up a lot of my time and a lot of time of the senior leadership and the deans, and to bring those ideas directly to you through this new medium. So thanks for joining us today. Well, we've just finished having another lunch with a group of faculty. It was about a dozen faculty today, and Provost Sue Martin was also a part of it. One of the people who participated today asked me, how many of these have you done? And it was really almost a source of surprise to me to realize it's about 60 since I came here. These lunches with faculty have just been really enjoyable opportunities for me and for the provost. They're always without a script. We don't have an agenda. But we just talk about the topics that come up, and sometimes they're academic topics, sometimes they have to do with the research that various people at the table are doing, and sometimes they have to do with the business of the university or some of the goals of the university. And today was a conversation that involved all of the above. We talked about the rapid urbanization and suburbanization that's occurring in China, and a really engaging conversation about how some of those processes are so rapid and in some ways so different from the process of urbanization, suburbanization in this country, that there's a lot that we can learn, and there are a lot of problems that need to be solved. So a really good discussion of some issues about Chinese social change, and then we also talked a little bit about India as well. So about half of our conversation today was on these topics of globalization and international social change. We also, as you might expect, spent some time on the business at home. And so we talked a little bit about the testimony which I recently gave to the Senate Committee on Higher Education. And we talked about the governor's budget recommendation, which at the time that she issued her recommendation led to a particularly generous allocation to Dearborn. I informed people at the table today that the Senate has now written its version of the legislation, and it changes the allocation to a flat 3% for all 15 university campuses, and we will be doing our budgeting accordingly. One thing I wanted to talk about with the faculty at the table was to share some of the content of the testimony which I provided to the Senate committee, because I think that testimony is both intended for our legislators, but it's also intended as kind of a way of highlighting what are the important issues and what are the important contributions that our campus is making. And so I talked about the metropolitan impact and the academic excellence of our campus. I talked about some of the concrete ways in which our campus is making a substantial difference in metropolitan Detroit. Because there were a couple of faculty from School of Education, I specifically referenced the impact that School of Ed is having on some of the metropolitan school districts like Southfield and Westwood. But in general, across the campus, we've got faculty activity, student activity, staff involvement in many issues which are leading to some substantial practical improvements in the quality of life in Southeast Michigan. That's something I'm very proud of, and I was able to communicate that and share that with the legislators who were part of the Higher Education Subcommittee. If anyone is interested in seeing the testimony, it's published on the web in the Chancellor's area under Speeches and Commentary. And I certainly invite you to come and read that testimony. The other half of the testimony was focused on a more public policy argument. I had asked various of the officers of the campus to do a little bit of research for me. And one of the things that we found was that over the past 20 years, the state's support for higher education has been very consistent at about 18 or 19% of the general fund. In the past 5 years, that percentage has dropped to something on the order of 15%. And so one thrust of my testimony to the Senate committee was to argue that from the point of view of public policy, from the point of view of helping the state move forward in these difficult economic times, it is really essential that we return to the level of support which the state has historically provided for higher education. And that means we need to work very hard in the next year or two to bring that allocation to higher education back up to the 18–19% range. But then we need to go beyond that. Other states in the region, not to speak of the dynamic states like North Carolina, for example, are not only maintaining, but they're actually increasing the percentage of their resources which they're spending on higher education. That reflects some very good thinking about what the drivers of economic change and job creation and business success are. The greatest driver is universities which are educating people well, providing an educated workforce, providing educated, capable, and energetic leaders and innovators into the economy, and that means supporting higher education. So this was yet another really excellent opportunity for me to meet with faculty. I know that Sue Martin certainly feels that she learns so much from the conversations that we have with faculty, and both of us feel that these are really important parts of the community that we're trying to establish here at Dearborn. Also an important way of moving forward both the business of the university, but also the intellectual life of the university. It's a nice combination, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity a great deal myself.